Well, hello, beautiful and ambitious women. Today I have a special guest, and I'm so excited about her and what she has to offer to the audience who is listening to this podcast. And you're going to find this super helpful. I think you need to pick up a pen and paper and get ready to write down all the tips that my special guest is going to be sharing with us today. And this is Christine, and she is actually a functional medicine nurse practitioner and coach. She empowers women to break free from burnout by embracing their natural well being and unblocking their limitless potential. That's exactly what we all want and need. And I met Christine in my coaching school. We had a great connection. She's an amazing woman, and you will enjoy her energy and all her wisdom. And by the way, the topic of today, we're going to talk about the wisdom of the body.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and being an ambitious woman and coaching ambitious women, we know that this is exactly the area where we would like to have a better understanding and connection with, because our body is a vessel,
Yeah.
and with a healthy body, we can accomplish way more. And
Mm.
burnout is a real thing.
It sure is. Yeah, yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you before we really dig in, Jules, for inviting me on today. Like you said, I was lovely to connect with you in our coaching program, and I love how you share and the wisdom that you share, the light that you have with everyone. I know it's deeply inspiring to be connected with you. And so I'm excited to share today and kind of see what comes out of it. So,
Yes, well, thank you. I'm receiving it. So yeah,
yeah,
beautiful person. Yes. All right. Well, we did say the word burnout. Let's start there.
we did. Yeah.
Yes. Do you see the symptoms of the burnout in your clients?
Yeah, I think predominantly I would say fatigue and exhaustion, number one. People, especially women, just feeling like they go through the day at like high speed, 1,000 miles per hour, but then they get to the end and they just have nothing left over for themselves. There's just nothing in the tank and very little bandwidth for themselves, very little emotional bandwidth for maybe their family or their friends, really having to ration themselves a lot because of that. And that feels hard because, right, we want to show up in all these areas of our life like
Mhm.
really well. And knowing that we are showing up maybe in just one area of our life and all these other areas are being sacrificed is hard
Yeah.
emotionally, I think. And definitely, I think in other areas, mood changes for some, whether it be like anxiety or depression, that kind of feeling low, feeling high,
Mhm.
across the board. Um, and often gut issues come along with that too sometimes. And for many women, I feel like especially in burnout and who are prone to pushing through symptoms, there is often this subtle way of minimizing these sensations within our body. Even though we might know that we feel drained, we put it off on something else and kind of just try to keep pushing through it and being like, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. I
Mhm.
know that happened a lot with me when I was going through burnout, just
Mhm.
feeling off, like feeling really like I wasn't like myself, but not really being able to pinpoint what that was and what that looked like. And it definitely didn't come across as what we would typically consider in medicine, like a clinical anxiety or a clinical depression,
Mhm.
which I think in a lot of traditional medicine spheres, we kind of associate those things and those diagnoses with how we label maybe burnout.
Mhm.
But for many people, I think it can come across very differently. And it might look like just feeling a little disconnected and feeling really dissatisfied with how your body is showing up on the day to day, just feeling like it's not like you're not really showing up in the way that you want to, and you know that something is off. But
Mhm.
it can be hard to pinpoint, especially for women who are chronic push througers, I
Push
think.
throughs, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I think you described the profile of a strong, independent, ambitious, high achiever, accomplisher, yeah, determined, all
Super
of
determined.
those characteristics that this very brilliant women uh, kind of cover what's inside or what they're not willing to face or
Yeah.
listening to the body. And on the outside, of course, they're the ones who are rescuing people, situations. They
Yeah.
come to help, they come to fix, they come to do whatever needs to be done. And just like you said, then there is no more energy left for themselves.
Yeah.
And since we were both in the coaching school and we also understand the limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
let's kind of like backtrack
Yeah.
and see what experience you've been having with your clients. What are the actual like beliefs they have about themselves
Mhm.
that get them on this journey of burnout so that they can say, but like, I was saving the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah, just this idea that underneath everything, they have to keep showing up and doing what's on their to-do list or keep, filling these needs for other people so that they can continue to be needed and wanted. Like
Mhm.
I feel like I hear that over and over again, that there's something about that either to-do list or, oh, but everyone else has all of these needs, so I just have to keep showing up for them, and then they'll keep needing me. They'll keep wanting me. They'll keep, they'll see me, and then I'll feel better about myself because they'll see that I'm showing up for them, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And I think that's at the heart of kind of what a lot of people are looking for is they're looking for some of that belonging, some of that worth, but it's coming across not like indirectly, right?
Mhm,
We're
mhm.
looking to find it in these other ways, whether it be through success and achievement and some of the accolades that we might be reaching for, whether it be like getting into that C-suite or like if it's, helping more people. I work with a lot of nurses, so very driven to serve other people. But it's at high cost to themselves and they don't realize that cost equation. And they kind of are missing how to take care of themselves amidst that.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions that I ask. Okay, but what does it cost you?
Yeah.
Let's review those symptoms and
Yeah.
see if we can, prevent burnout, understanding the symptoms and also understanding what drives you. And yes, self-worth is definitely where I spent a lot of time. So, and I know this is that I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy unless I show up for them, because essentially there is a need there, the need for love,
Yeah.
need for recognition, need for appreciation.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're not giving to themselves,
Exactly.
because perhaps the underlying belief there that comes from society and parents and everything is that I'm going to be selfish.
Yeah. Yeah. We can't give it to ourselves, right? Like we're taught in some ways not to do that, right?
Mhm,
That's
mhm,
this recognition or this appreciation has to be outsourced to
mhm,
other people, to other organizations, and that's where we have to go looking for it. And that's why we have to show up with 110%, right? Which is totally
mhm.
unrealistic. Who can do that? Nobody, literally nobody.
Right.
But that's why we keep feeling like we have to do that to achieve these things and kind of get that recognition that we're looking for
Mhm,
because it's selfish, it's greedy, it's too prideful if we do that for
mhm.
ourselves. Yeah, I think you hit that on the
Yeah.
nose.
Yes, and that's what I always have them realize by just saying, okay, so if there is a woman who is a selfish and there is a woman who is a self-destructive, who do you think you are?
Yeah,
Maybe there's nothing wrong with being selfish,
yeah,
because you're the leading force of
yeah,
creation, you're leading force of creating your lifestyle. But when your lifestyle only evolves around accomplishments and being recognized by others,
yeah,
like what else does it exist? Nothing. and
Yeah.
then you become self-destructive. So, and when I give them those two words, now they start like recognizing the difference.
Mhm.
And then I like to say that, well, how about we'll create aligned selfish?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were talking before we started, we're going to be talking a lot about alignment.
Mm.
So, and that's how I kind of start that alignment journey with them. Well, let's see what the self actually wants or what the self actually likes. And one of the challenging questions that I know my clients struggle with is, what do you want?
Mhm.
What do
Yeah.
you do for fun?
Yeah. Yeah.
What brings you joy? Like helping others is not the answer.
Yeah.
Tell me what brings you joy to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do
I
you see that too?
I certainly see that, and I think one of the first things that I start with a lot of my clients is that idea of like, well, where is it that you actually want to go? Like where like if you could live any ideal life, like what is that going to look like for you? And especially when it comes to health and well-being, people really struggle with this. Like I would say very in particular, like imagining their body as healthy because we are taught that if that one it's normal to feel awful like to feel fatigued to have hormone issues PMS like anxiety like that these things are just very normalized especially in America that's super driven culture and it is hard to envision what it could look like otherwise and it feels like it's asking for too much like a lot of people say like is this like I mean, you asked me to say that this is without limitations or barriers, but is this like me just dreaming like a pie in the sky kind of thing? Like this feels weird. Like it just feels very uncomfortable for them to
Mhm.
actually imagine that their body could feel different and then that could then mean that their life could look really different too because how their body is going to show up for them is going to be also then mirrored in how they're showing up in their life and what that intention kind of draws forward.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. Yeah, just for them not even being able to realize that it could be different. And I work a lot with laws of the universe because in the nature we can always find harmony, and I like pulling the examples from that as well. And here I always say, okay, then um, if you are constantly if you cannot even like visualize that it can be your body can be healed because it
Mhm.
has that natural ability and with some reorganization in your lifestyle, then what are you focusing on is what you don't have. And as we know, whatever we focus on, that's where the energy goes, and that's what you have more because you're just focusing on that. Like, it's supposed to be normal. I am normal. All other women complain about stuff. That
Yep.
means I'm normal. And what
Yep.
you're creating is that normality.
Yep.
But if we just pause, and that's what hopefully they are doing when they schedule our coaching sessions, we allow them to pause and
Yep.
just realize, just question it.
Yeah.
What if it doesn't have to be normal?
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
if I'm your age, but I'm fine and you're falling apart? Like I'm an evidence, like it could be a different way. And what if it's just the lifestyle you've created in your mind and what you focus on and all those subconscious beliefs that we all have, but we just don't even know how they actually run a life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always go back to that quote that we learned in a coaching school. Carl Jung said that until unconscious become conscious, it's gonna run our life, and we're gonna call it fate.
Yep. Yep.
Like, yeah, been there, done that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
guess when you're asking them to visualize that different life,
Mhm.
it they have to come to the conscious mind and use their power of imagination to just even imagine it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels uncomfortable, but it like just that sense, that practice of it, most people walk away from that session feeling like I have never considered my body in this way, and this feels good. Like this, it literally just feels good to think about how they could feel different potentially in their body. And I try to hold like a both and perspective. Like
Mhm.
whatever the body is doing is really wise. Like it's not that it's broken, right? And I think sometimes we think of these
Yes.
things like fatigue and anxiety or depression or whatever symptoms, PMS coming up as like problems, right? These are
Mhm.
problems. This is a sign something is broken about my body. At the same time that we normalize it, it's this deep problem that we deal with and very negative. And there is something wise about these signals that's coming through, like a deeper reason that they exist and are persisting and maybe even getting louder. And like that when we take action, we hold it with surrender, right? I think we learned again a lot of this from our teacher in the coaching program, that when we develop this vision, it's not that it has to be exactly what we envision in our mind, right? As we move towards that vision, it's not like we are holding it with these really tight fists of like, well, now it has to look exactly like that, right? Like I have to be 100% pain-free all the time, right? Like, yes, I would love for that to happen and for people not to have the headaches and all the muscle aches and the things that kind of come along with the stress of the body. But at the same time, like if it's 10% less or 90% less, that's still much better, right? You can still show up more fully in your life. And that's still movement in the right direction, I think, of listening to the body, but also trusting what it's doing at the
Mhm.
same time, right?
Yeah, and trust is a big concept for the ambitious women who are on the go
Yeah,
all the time, just because they're not in their body. And where does trust live? It
yeah,
lives in the body.
yeah,
Intuition lives in the body. That's why the way I have it in my mind, and I often share it with my clients because I also have a board with me. I like to draw and give pictures, and they like that. It's like a visual. So, and
yeah,
that's how I see it. Like there is this one circle on one side and the other circle on the other side. And this is kind of like how our ego works because it's just black and white. It's either I'm 100% or I'm not 100%. That's why we're
yeah,
not even recognizing that 9% is better right now. Like you have less headaches. Like you had
yeah.
it 7 days a week, now it's five. Right? But the ego goes either or, right? And like you said, both and. But when those circles connect in the middle, right? And that's where I see there is more connection to trust, faith, love, imagination, God, spirit, whatever they believe in. And then you come to that wholeness and you start even like using different language of trust and faith. And that's so important to be in the body, to feel the body, to understand the body, because that's where it all lives. No wonder, like in other cultures, they call gut, which we're going to be talking about, is
Yeah,
that second brain, because that's where the intuition lives. But if you're constantly on the go and outsourcing all your needs on
yeah,
something else, you're not in the body, you're not feeling it, you're not trusting it. That's why you go back and forth. Is this or is this that? Tell me what to do. I
yeah.
don't
Outsourcing because there's not that connection within, just it can't be established. And it's I can appreciate and I just want to honor that it is hard if you live in a body where there are a lot of symptoms that you're feeling. I hear this a lot from the women that I work with. It is really hard to be connected, to
know.
feel connected to that body. There is often a sense of deep disconnection that feels very challenging to overcome. And in a lot of cases, even dissociation from the body, like looking at themselves in the mirror and just feeling like, who is that? Like, I know that I'm here, but like, who is that anymore? Right.
Yeah.
And so I think doing that work of, again, kind of both and of like working with the body, right? Working with, which is why I love using functional medicine in particular and the coaching skills that we've learned, but like working with the body, working with the symptoms, trying to change what those feel like, and really supporting that internal connection at the same time, really developing our muscles to retune and find what that gut is actually communicating, what it
Mhm.
is to be aligned internally.
Yeah.
Because we, if we're always looking outside and that body within doesn't feel safe anymore, it is
Mhm.
really challenging to just be like, oh, just listen to the sensations of your body, right? Like you have to, it's a practice that we develop. It's truly a skill, but it can be learned. If it, even if it feels hard now, like I want to be mindful that it can be learned, but it has to be done in a way that you can develop that trust slowly over time, right? It's not the fast lane. It's the
Mhm.
let's build this over time.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So yes, because when you're in fight and flight, and that's how you know, and you know you're struggling, and this is your identity, especially if you're reminding yourself, I'm broken, my body is broken,
Yeah.
then this is kind of your world. And
Yeah.
yet transitioning to something else
Mhm.
and actually even allowing yourself to feel moments, because I'm
Yeah.
sure we can find those moments,
Yeah.
it's gonna be, yeah, like almost feeling unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost like I don't know what to do with myself if my body is like not broken. Like there's a whole identity shift needs to happen.
Yeah.
So I can see
Yeah.
that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're going to be talking about it, but I'd love to if you have something to add. Because what I've learned in our coaching school and what I've been learning with my clients, like one part that guess helps them dissociate with the body is the emotions that they're suppressing. And of course, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that emotions, it's chemicals releasing in the body. So if we just don't call them anger or happiness, they're just chemicals releasing in the body and they do their job. And
Yeah.
now we have more and more evidence that when we suppress emotions, that's what a lot of times cause that disconnection in the body and all the other diseases and stuff. Because if you do that over the years
Mhm.
and it feels heavy and it feels just like not good in the body.
Yeah.
I know, like, I don't do the work that you do to the degree of testing and everything else.
Mm.
And I probably don't have the cases, like, super difficult ones in terms of like the body challenges. But I've noticed a lot of progress with my clients, just helping them understand emotions, just like giving them permission to feel them without naming them. It's bad, good. I'm a good girl. The good girl is not supposed to be angry. Okay. Right. So, and just them connecting in the body and just simply like feel tight or light. Can we just be on the physical level? Like, let's not name it anger or whatever, because there is other conditioning out there. But can you just start noticing, like, wherever you are, whoever you're talking to, like, is it a tight sensation in your body? Or does it feel like it's open and you're just like, oh, that feels good, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
just doing that, and of course, like doing the limiting beliefs that
Yeah.
what's associated with that. I know my clients often say, like, I feel like I lost 20 pounds, and for the
Yeah.
scale, I'm still the same number.
But
So,
that lightness
like,
in the body, it
yeah.
matters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say similar experiences, and that's why I like using both. And I think ultimately one of the reasons I went and did the coaching program that we did together is because medicine was only helping me take my clients so far. Like using functional medicine and telling people like what to do was really only helping them like get to a point, and I kept seeing them getting stuck. And I knew that I needed to find another way to help them through that experience. And it's really doing both at the same time. And I think I really want to have people hear this, and I hope that it resonates with them. But because we get so caught up in our society of like either working on the body and the chemicals and taking the medicines and whatever it is, or doing the like mindset meditation natural, but these things can go, they work best when we use them together, right?
Yes.
um
Because, yeah, it's a
and
wholeness. Yeah.
it's because our bodies are whole.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we've always been whole, and so to meet our bodies in their wholeness, and to come and be able to meet, like do both that mindset, emotional mastery, just listening to those sensations, us. And I think it's important to say too that when if you are in a situation where you're struggling to hold that for yourself, you shouldn't be expected to do that on your own.
Mhm.
because ultimately our bodies, even though we appear as individuals, we are actually physically interconnected on quantum levels, and
Yeah.
our bodies are biologically designed to be social. Our heart rate and our rhythm changes when we are connected in the presence of someone who has a different rhythm. And so if we have trouble attuning our body, connecting with someone who is a little bit farther on down the line, whether that be like a therapist or a coach, or someone whom you can step into their presence and just feel it come down a little bit, that will help you train your body because you are actually co-regulating with that person. You are using their body's rhythm to help re-regulate your body's rhythm. And
Yeah.
that is a really like it's an essential component of healing, especially from stress.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yes, connection is a big thing. And I guess that's what we also have learned from COVID times. That's
Yes.
interesting that you're talking about it because I come from the yoga world, and in the partner yoga, I used to teach yoga. And that's some poses that we did. You sit with another person, especially like back to back, like in a
Yeah.
lotus, whatever is flexible. And yeah, that was the whole idea. You just like try to even connect and feel their breathing. And it was, yeah, very beautiful experience that you're so close and you can feel another person breathe. And then, like, yeah, after a while, you're almost like breathing in sync. And breath is an amazing tool. I love working with breath as well. And for my ambitious women, I sometimes give them the test, or like when we do breath work, first I test and I just simply ask them to like inhale and I see how they're inhaling. And then when I tell them exhale, I always tell them like, okay, do it as slow as you possibly can. And while you're doing that, see if you can like count.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and they do it a few times, like in the beginning. And no, I never excel. I don't, it's so hard for me to excel. And excel is exactly what connects you to parasympathetic nervous system. And when you're on the go and fight and flight, you're just like do this quick inhales and you never exhale kind of thing. I mean, you do, but kind of don't. But when
Mhm.
you like slow down and actually intentionally try to do it, and I'm always generous with the number. First, I tell them like, well, can you do it till 3? How about that? So they don't go into competition or perfectionism, right? Just like
Uh-huh.
normal, like you like try to slow down and breathe and calm. Oh no, it's so hard for me. Well, that's your homework. You gotta start breathing and paying attention
Yep.
to breath.
Yep.
And then like I give them one count extra.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then by some time, they start at least being aware of breathing.
Mhm.
And that's what connects also the nervous system and the mind and body, like from that spiritual perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because mind lives in the body, body lives in the mind, and the spirit is everywhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like if we treat one but don't treat another, it's still disconnection.
Still
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if you maybe share, I don't know, one tip or something that you, like you said before, you help them get a little bit of safety dose to
Mhm.
connect with the body. So is there something that you can share with our audience here to like maybe a little tip where they can start doing that safety dose?
Yeah. I think it's especially if they are feeling like unsafe in their body, like working with somebody, I think is really important, number one. And somebody that makes them who they initially feel safe with, like they feel that like kind of initial connection. That's actually when they do research on therapy, that's one of the number one predictors of whether therapy is it successful is whether or not they like the person that they're connected to. So
Oh, that makes
just
sense.
yeah, just connect with somebody that you like, right? And whose
Uh,
presence like kind of helps you calm down and use that connection to just maybe take a beat and slow down. You don't have to if the sensations of the body feel triggering or feel like they're too much, don't even try to connect with those in the beginning. I don't think, right? Like just try to be in a space and notice the safety of the walls, right? Like notice that you're okay in that moment, right? And notice that this other person is also okay and start there. So starting really simple and kind of meeting wherever your body is at in the spectrum is, I think, how you build that safety over time. It's not that you jump to, well, if I should practice safety by using my breath. I actually have a client and like who has a lot of anxiety in particular, but she like feeling her breath and kind of doing breath work in particular actually makes her feel more anxious because then she feels she has this belief that's been long wired, unfortunately, that she can't breathe deeply enough. And so by paying attention to her breath, that kind of triggers that belief. And so for her, I don't encourage actually doing the breath work. I encourage feel your butt on the chair, right? Just
Mhm.
notice what it feels like to sit with your butt on the chair, or notice what it feels like to feel your feet against the floor.
Mhm.
Like those are generally like sometimes safer sensations to feel in the body. And those are still really good sensations to begin to notice and to feel. Like grounding is a really good
Mhm.
technique to build safety within the nervous system and help lower cortisol levels and things like that. So just doing
Yeah,
those basic things. Yeah.
that makes sense because I also did functional movement and kind of sort of speak close to physical therapy, but not physical therapy, but I knew a lot. So I was
Mm,
able to help people with some structural, disconnections with the body. And I was very surprised how many people not connected to the body. And I mostly work with women. Like sometimes they would send me their husbands, like from men, I sort of like expected, but from women, I was very surprised. And that's what I also was finding out. More I was helping them connect because
mhm,
I was very much focused on feet work as well. So in just like bringing the awareness into smaller part of the body that actually connects to everywhere.
mhm.
And like when they actually feel, I do that, like I give them some exercises or whatever, and they feel how when they step with a foot like this and it actually like engages their glute, they get so excited, like, I feel it now, I feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like through those physical sensations and movement and like exercises, but I'm very precise like at connecting and sending the signals and stuff. So I actually felt like just by them connecting to their body, it was helping on so many levels because back then I wasn't really into coaching, I wasn't doing mindset, I was just strictly like biomechanics of movement. And like I did the walking gait and I would just break it down and I see what parts are missing and kind of like let them do it. And it was very successful from that regard. And especially I was always enjoying the moments when they would come back and say, oh, I went for a hike and this is what happened. And I remember what you're telling me here and there. And I did that and my pain went away. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
See, you can now do your own work. And isn't that awesome? You're like connected to your body and your body is your friend. And
Yep.
now it like responds back to you. And that creates that trust and safety and all of that. And it was amazing. So like now, as you were talking about it, I had this flashback, like,
Mhm.
huh, yeah, that's
Yep.
why.
Yep. Yep. I love it because there are so many ways to come about it, right? There's not just one way. And I think that that helps people, like, I hope that you can then find like alignment, right? Because it's not just about like listening to, oh, so and so told me to do this one thing, right? But like, what is it that feels good for you in your body, right? Kind of coming back to what you asked your clients earlier, what is it that brings you joy, right? And kind of asking that of the body, like turning a little bit of attention to our soma every once in a while and being like, what feels good in my body, right? Like, let me
Yeah,
just start there. Like, yeah.
yes. And I think it all also goes down to with conditioning for women that has something to do with desire and
Yeah.
not allowing, or I don't know, not being permitted to desire because that means something like you're a bad girl or you're dirty or whatever, like all of those conditioning beliefs, because that's what I've been finding out within myself and also with other clients. And perhaps it's also going back to that self-worth, like who am I to have like so much stuff, or who am I to like feel great? And this is just another level of it. Like we learned the concept of upper limit. It's just like how much good are you able to handle,
Mm.
which when I heard that concept, I wasn't quite into buying it. But when I experienced myself and had to open up the doors to like push through that upper limit, like I'm actually like okay to to like be good and everything is good because I had to believe that, if you're feeling good, then the shoe is gonna drop. Is it the one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one.
that
So
is.
like that unconscious belief that came to consciousness, and I had to work with it and some other ones that popped up. So, and now I'm a big proponent of the upper limit. I actually believe that there is a fear of success because before it didn't make sense to me at all. But I really
Yeah,
now.
well, I mean, there's a deep fear of loss, like whatever we want to get, like we also then fear not having it at the same time.
Yeah.
And I certainly am noticing that even with myself, like even having all these tools, like it'll come up in different areas of your
Mhm.
life, right? Like you'll notice it in one way and then you'll like kind of work through it and you'll be like, I'm good now, right? And then it'll show up in a different way and you're
Yeah.
darn. There
Yeah.
it is again. There it is. I didn't realize it was still here, but there it is.
Well, yeah, and I guess you and I, we have probably a little bit more skillful view on the universal gifts that come up. And you're trying to look at them like, yeah, how is it serving me as my gift to freedom, to that inner freedom, and get through the next door of consciousness or whatever I'm going in my journey. And yeah, sometimes gifts are tough
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
other times. But this is the moment when I always say, okay, whoever is up there, help me see this differently.
Yeah.
So, because right now I don't want to see it this way.
I know.
Unless you show me other signs that I'm not seeing it right now, which is, yeah, interesting. Well, I think that we probably can go back and see if we can define what is well-being that we're after.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for each person that might be defined differently, but I think it's that ability to be in our body ultimately and be able to do the things that we want to be able to do and feeling fully present and fully ourselves. Like, so feeling deeply connected in the moment and I think in our minds, like sometimes we imagine well-being as like, being super fit, right? Or like looking a certain way or not having acne, right? Like there's all these things that we
Mhm.
attribute to like our body. But ultimately, I think it's really about showing up fully as ourselves and feeling deeply connected to whatever it is that we're doing, that intention that we're looking to draw forward in our lives, and making that impact that makes us feel like really satisfied in ourselves.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so ability to do what we want, but that's
Mhm.
again the question. I guess that's that also term that being ourselves.
Yeah.
But as we've kind of been describing this woman, she doesn't know usually what that means.
Yeah.
And just that's the journey where it starts, like actually finding yourself and what that means.
Yeah.
Perhaps like when we were talking about aligning or alignment, maybe that's the journey of alignment. Just start asking the questions like, who am I? What brings me joy? What do I want?
Mhm.
And when I'm not helping others, who am I? When I'm not accomplishing, who am I? And
Yeah.
that might be also tough questions, and that will again bring you to unsafety. So that's
Mhm.
why it's good to have a container with a coach or whoever who
Mhm.
can lead you, support you, and give you that guidance. Because, yeah, you're shifting your whole identity, and the nervous system is going to be definitely fighting
Yeah.
for the old identity unless you know what's happening or somebody can explain it to you, like, oh, okay, now I
Yeah.
can see that. So, which will all cause some kind of level of stress in the body. And when you're disconnected, you might not stay there. You might just like, okay, let me run away from this person.
Yeah.
And then you're essentially chasing something that you don't even know what you're chasing because you don't know who you are, you don't know what you want. And then it's like this vicious circle, right?
Mhm.
It's yeah, it's the journey of the ambitious woman. And I've definitely been there. And I know you have too. Would you like to share your story and what helped you get to your well-being and what that looks for you?
Yeah, yeah. So I, during nursing school, began to have a lot of health issues, and this was about 13 years ago. And it kind of started with gut issues and then chronic pain in my neck, acne that was really starting, and it was really challenging. I felt tired all the time, and like I could attribute it to certain things on the outside, but it just kept getting like worse and worse and worse over time as well. And I came across like I think one of my family members gave me a book on diet, and I ended up going like gluten free.
Mm,
And it changed my pain dramatically, like the pain in my neck that couldn't be treated with anything, the headaches that I was having, it all like it went away. And I was like, and I went and I talked to my doctor about it. I remember being like, oh, like I want to see if I'm celiac or something, right? Because I took gluten out, and they just like really poo-pooed me, like, oh, I don't know what happened, but gluten doesn't have anything to do with how you
mm.
feel. Like it doesn't have
Oh,
anything to do with your symptoms. And
wow.
for me, that was like the moment that like things began to crack in my belief of traditional medicine. And I'm trained traditionally. That's the path that I went on for 10 plus years, and nursing was very traditional. And I was like, wait a minute, like that doesn't seem right. you know? And over time, I began to have I would, have periodic things coming up, from anemia to other stuff. Even though I had, treated my body with, going gluten free, I knew that there was something else still brewing. I still had a lot of bloating, a lot of gut issues. And it took me a long time to find traditional medicine. I kind of went through this like biohacking phase, and then I finally found functional medicine kind of after that. And it was like my eyes being open to this brand new world where you could look underneath the hood, so right, and you could actually get like answers about why these things are happening. And it was a total game changer for me. Like I was able to finally know, like, oh, these are the tests that I can order to check my hormones. These are the tests that I can order to like look at my gut. And I could see I had, changes in my gut microbiome. I could see that I didn't have enough pancreatic enzymes, to digest my food. I could see that my estrogen was low, and I wanted to have kids someday. And so I needed to correct that, right? So it gave me all these opportunities, and it gave me a lot more compassion for my body because I could actually see what it had been enduring the whole time, right? I didn't understand why I was so tired. I was like, I eat healthy, I work out, I was very health conscious.
Mhm,
Um, and that's why I think doctors would look at me and run the traditional lab work and be like, oh, you're healthy, right? Like you're good weight, like you look good, you can run 7 miles pretty fast, right? I could do these things on the outside, but on the inside, something didn't feel like it was really right. And I could finally see it when I had some like data, right? I could
mhm,
see, yeah, my body isn't okay. My estrogen is low because I've been stressed like for a really, really long time. And like the body will stop producing estrogen when it's under a lot of stress. And
mhm,
so it made a lot of sense then to me. And then I knew kind of exactly what to do, right? It just gave me very like real tangible things to do with my diet, to do with my lifestyle, that were very easy. And then I could see the improvements that I had in my body. Like I could get real results and feel much better about it.
mhm,
So that's kind of where I ended up landing, right, in functional medicine. It took me a while to get there, and it took me a while to realize that this was kind of my deep passion. But
mhm,
I love, I love that I feel more connected to my body than I've ever been. Like, it used to be that I would look at myself and I would see the problems in the mirror looking back at me. And now I look at my body and I'm like, look at her, look at what she's doing
mhm,
today. Like it's a big mindset shift. And I love hearing from like the women that I'm working with that they are feeling that same sense too, that when they can understand that their body has been doing these really incredible things actually the whole time. They thought it was doing something weird, but it was actually doing something really ingenious. And
Mhm.
when they can start to see that for themselves, they have so much more self-trust, so much
Mhm.
more confidence in their body. And they start just, and when their energy unlocks and everything, they're just like going right at life. And it just is cool. It's really cool to see like these women really coming back to themselves.
Yeah.
And often their family being like, "Do you need to slow down? Like, are you okay? Like, is this gonna be all right?" And they're just, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yes, that's amazing and liberating for sure. And yes, compassion is a very important step because also for this type of women, myself included,
Mhm.
self-judgment
Oh,
is
yeah.
usually what we are driven by, doing
Mhm.
all this amazing work and everything, but also with that low self-worth, self-judgment is there. And then when you perceive your body is broken, that means you are broken. And it's like that circle. So yes, and just teaching and understanding compassion. And yes, like looking at the body from a different perspective, like it's not bad and it's not failing you. It's just
No.
simply communicating to you, like,
Yes.
take care of me. And that's
Yep.
the book that I'm currently reading that I love. I don't know if you've read it. It's by Gabor Mate.
Oh,
He's the Hungarian scientist, and he's pretty big on like communicating with medical people to
mhm.
help them understand how emotions cause disease as well. And
Yeah.
he just wrote a book, and it's called When the Body Says No.
No, yeah.
And the whole idea, like he says just in one sentence, that when the mind cannot say no, the body does. That's
Yep.
why, thank you, body.
Body,
Because that
yeah.
ambitious woman can go
Mhm.
on those beliefs that she needs to rescue the world,
Yep.
like you said before, for a long time, right? But when
Mhm.
the body starts talking, then suddenly we pay attention.
Yep. We have to.
So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like going back to your journey, and you said you were very stressful. I like to kind of bring a little bit of number here. So from 0 to 10, what was your level of stress?
Oh, a 10. Like, I was at the brink of life isn't worth living anymore multiple times. Yeah, it was high. It
Yeah.
was very high. Yeah.
And do you fit this profile that we've been describing, this woman who is like everywhere for everyone and doing everything?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what were your beliefs, like, especially after your journey or through your journey, you've been discovering? Like,
Mhm.
what do you think your beliefs were then, like selfish and all that stuff, that might have made you into that profile woman?
Yeah. That is a good question. I haven't actually ever gone back to think about what were my beliefs back then, and
Okay.
how did they shift. And I think definitely I had some core beliefs about my that I was only good enough if everyone else around me was happy with who I was. And so I was
Again, slow down, say it again. I
I
was
was
good enough.
only good enough if everyone else around me was happy with who I was. And I was constantly searching to know if everyone else was satisfied with me. And I was looking for that reflection in my relationships. And the first thing that really broke me was I was in an abusive marriage. And I can look back now and see how I contributed. I wasn't a big victim by any means, but the emotional abuse that I endured at that point, it was pretty extreme. And it made me really confused. Like everything that I thought that I had been, like I thought that I was a loving person. I thought that I was a kind person. And my ex, like, he would really take those things down, like my beliefs about myself. And so I lost my identity. And then I had a moment where I was driving home one day from working on the nursing unit, and it was pouring rain, and I was living in the South, so it's like deep, deep pouring rain, like you can't see, you sometimes pull off the side of the road kind of rain. And I was like, oh, I could let go of the steering wheel and maybe I wouldn't exist anymore. Maybe this pain that I'm carrying wouldn't exist because I don't even know who I am, right? And it just hurt. My soul hurt. And I can't describe it in any other way than this extreme weight. And I had this like vision in my mind of the stars in the sky. And this voice interrupt me and say, but if you live, this is who you will impact. This is the numbers of people that you could impact. I'm getting
Oh,
teary as I talk about this.
yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
And
And
yes.
so it brought me back, like, it brought me back from that moment, and I began to then unravel
Mhm.
this belief that I didn't really understand that I had at the time, and I guess I never have articulated until now,
Mm,
um, that other people get to define who I am, and that I should be paying attention to just that.
mm,
And it was the first time that I began to define who I was
mhm,
and to claim, like, I want to impact the people of the stars in the sky. I
mm.
want to connect with that light, and I am worthy of doing that,
Yes,
right? That
yes.
I had something to offer. Like it gave me a moment of I am somebody who is worthy,
Mm,
right?
mm. Yes.
Um so then as I began to change, like that was a big epiphany moment, the on the edge of the cliff epiphany moment. And my life changed dramatically after that. Like I left my ex-husband, I left that relationship, I never looked back. And I started looking in the mirror and being like, "You're a badass woman." Even though
Oh,
nothing about my body had changed at that moment, I just started to really claim the woman that I saw in the mirror, that she was mine, right? And all those things made a really big difference, I think, for me. And just like claiming that inherent desire to be me. So,
yes, that's the desire.
mhm.
It all starts. You were desiring to be me, to that next
Yeah,
version of who you were, but you forgot who you were.
yeah, yep,
Yes, I love what you said. Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
Sharing
Didn't realize
mine.
I was gonna get
Yes,
emotional with
I
that.
like that. Well, I have a tendency to make my clients cry, so
Oh, yeah, I do that to them too, so I have to
yeah,
pay those
so
back.
yeah, we're soul sisters, but that was a
Yeah,
soulful cry. So thank you
yeah,
for being
yeah.
vulnerable, but also sharing this message. I love it. So yeah, for our audience, just look in the mirror and you say, "You are mine,"
You're mine. Yeah,
and make you, create you. That's what I always like to do with my clients. You
yeah,
know, who do you create you want to be?
yeah,
Because now you're in the process of creation, especially when you get to that moment where everything is just like going to the ground and the
yeah,
only way
rock bottom.
up is rising up. And you
Yep,
have to like clean up your wings. And
yep,
I'm glad
yeah,
you did. And you listened to the voice and you rose up to
yeah,
this beautiful person who you are and always been in
yeah.
just those few years in your life.
Mhm.
That
Yeah, it's
to
just
you and bring you
yeah.
back to who you were.
Yeah. It was I wouldn't change it, right? As hard as it was to go through that moment, I like the level of wisdom that I have gained and just the knowing of myself that I have gained from that, like I would never change it. And I think, that moment, it was both this claiming of who I wanted to be, but also this realization of everything that I've done in the past has been perfectly curated to create what I'm experiencing right now. So here I am on the edge of a cliff, and I've designed this perfectly. I didn't realize that that was what I was doing, but I designed
Mhm.
this perfectly to get me right here. And so I said, well, if I can do that unintentionally, what can I create intentionally, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah. So I have goosebumps, like, yeah, hugs.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
I think
that's
yeah, and it
beautiful. Yeah, it's just like I have to almost like quote you. Yeah, what you said. What else can I create? If I created that from unintentional place, what else can I create from the intentional place? Yeah,
yeah,
this is beautiful. And this is that power of subconscious. We live and design life by default until moments like this happen. And just like we spoke about it earlier, this is the gifts, and you turned it into the gift because, yeah, you could have just like, let yourself go, so to speak, when you took the hands off the wheel. But at that moment, you had that epiphany and you listened and you stayed there and you also believed it.
Mhm.
At that moment, when everything was just like falling down with that rain,
Yeah.
and then from that moment, you just rose up to shine your light into this world. And
Yeah.
then so many other women to do the same. And that's beautiful. So
Mhm.
this is kind of like my passion. So that's why I'm still like trying to connect to my message and I'm shining away from it because it's that from, like I always like to say, from not good enough to what is possible.
Mhm.
And that's your journey. And that's that same identity just said in your words. So letting other people define who I am. So if ladies, you do that, and we can help you, or you can help yourself just by being inspired from this story, like preventing that moment on the wheel or in the car.
Yeah.
So
Don't, I hope you don't have wind up
that would
there.
be the best.
If you're
Yeah.
on the edge, call somebody.
Yes, if you're
There's
on
a
the
lovely
edge,
hotline. Yeah.
exactly. Or just start looking at your patterns.
Yeah.
Yes, life is beautifully reflecting back to you all those patterns that already exist. Then just by observing them, kind of go into your thoughts and see if you have that deep thought somewhere that I'm actually buying my love through those people. I'm letting them define me. And then you're losing your power. And when you're losing your power, of course, your body is going to talk to you eventually because body does not like to be powerless.
No, that's not
It
the
doesn't feel
natural state of
good.
the body.
Yeah.
It's not the natural state of the body. And I'm blessed now. I have the ability and the time to like do meditation and that. And I was doing a somatic meditation this morning and I just got this deep sense of the power within my body that most of the time I'm totally unaware of. And it's if you have an opportunity to do some deep meditation and somatic meditation, if your body feels safe enough, I encourage you to connect with that because it's there. We don't realize it all the time, but it's already there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just for us to pause. That's why, like, breathing is one of the opportunities because it's always there and you can always drop into the breath and just being present for one breath at a time. That's what you need to start moving in that direction of feeling
Yeah.
and not just numbing through it and go back and work out of that I'm not good enough space.
Yeah.
And in the book that I mentioned, The Body Says No, he actually has one of the chapters that is called I'm Not Good Enough.
Mm.
And what disease it comes with, according to his research, because he also worked in the hospice area and
Uh,
he interviewed people before dying and he almost like created the profiles. And these are those people, and there were men too, not just women, who are like on the deathbed or after being diagnosed with cancer, they're not thinking about themselves. They're like, oh, but don't tell my wife. Or like, oh, don't tell my husband. Like, I don't want her to be mad. I don't want her to be like upset. Don't tell it. Like, they're just thinking about others. Or
yeah.
like, but what about my business partner? Like, what are they
Yeah.
going to do? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is your time now to think about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really fascinating book. You might enjoy reading it.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna add that to my
But it's,
list.
yeah, when the body says no, and this is just like a very like it's a story. Like there is another book that is called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, yes, I
I
love that
think
book.
it's complicated to read sometimes, but this is just more stories and profiles and kind of like he's reviewing and yeah, I enjoy that. So I'm learning a
Yeah.
lot. Well,
Mhm.
thank you for this beautiful story. So if we come here now, what's your stress level now?
Oh, much lower these days. depends on how much I'm buying into some of my stories.
Mhm.
I would say a 3, maybe.
Okay.
Like that
Mhm.
life is never I don't avoid the stress of life by any means. I know my body is resilient and can meet any challenge, right? Like I've shown that to myself, I think, time and time again.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely embrace a much slower and spacious lifestyle now.
Spacious, that's the
Yeah.
word. Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
what you said. My body is resilient now. Yes. Let's try to remember that
Yeah.
so we can get back to alignment and that well-being that is all within ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just up to us to create that space to feel, to be present, and still productive and still accomplishing. It's just like that you said, both and no, and both. How do you say?
Both and yeah.
That's what I said. Both
Yep, you
and
did.
yes.
Mhm.
So that you can be present and you can be productive.
Yep,
And it's just really like that shifting focus shifting.
yep, exactly.
So it's not like doing 10 things at once and then being lost, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of like doing one thing and feeling it and being there and doing the next and scratching some because
Yeah.
enough.
More productive in some ways, like
Yeah.
to be fully present. Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
much deeper. Yeah.
Right, beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the stuff you do and how you can help people and how they can find you. And of course, I'll put all your links in the description. But yeah, tell us.
Yeah, so I use functional medicine as a nurse practitioner and also as a coach to help women kind of come back into their body and to kind of return home to it in some ways. So, using some of the specialty testing that functional medicine does and getting a sense of like what are some of the underlying physiological roots of some of these symptoms that are coming up so that then these women can feel that connection kind of return to their body while doing that emotional and mindset mastery and really then ultimately be feel well, right, feel well within their body and then use that wellness, that well-being to ultimately be who they want to be in the world, to share those deep gifts, to share their like true potential with the people around them, the people that they love, and whatever that looks like.
Oh,
So
beautiful. And this is one-on-one work, right?
I do one-on-one. I also have some groups that I'm starting. So and I think I'm going to keep doing groups. I do love it, and I love again that idea of like we learn really well and we co-regulate with each other. So I'm kind of harnessing that power a little bit more. So you can stay tuned for things like that. And then as I'm also putting together some courses for people, especially around nutrition.
Okay.
Um, and kind of using how to personalize nutrition, how to really tap into what the body needs for resourcing, because food is how we ultimately resource our body. It's our fuel.
Yeah.
So if we want more resilience, if we want to feel more energy, if we want to feel more connected, we have to give our body the tools to do that, and that's
Mhm.
through food.
Yeah.
Um, so
Only people understand that calorie means a unit of energy.
yeah, it's a more complicated, yeah, that's definitely true. And it's also more complicated in terms of how our body uses it. And so helping people come to see like, do they have any food sensitivities that even though maybe they're taking in calories from their food, it's triggering their immune system and draining all of the energy that they're creating immediately, right? Because it's going straight to the immune reaction to that food. And that can then be like a net negative in some ways,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So sure, you've eaten, 1,800 calories, but your immune system's been burning a lot more than that. So,
Mhm.
um, helping people kind of discover what it is that their body deeply needs, and finding ways to get that to themselves. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. And I also know that you have a good program that is called From Burnout to Brilliance, right?
Yes, yeah, that's one of my
Wow, that's
group
a cool
programs.
name. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's
It's
a
been
group
fun.
program.
It's a new yeah, I just started it in January, and it's very intimate this go around. So we're just two people and myself. So it's very, very individualized still, I would say. But I'm really enjoying it and seeing these women just come and really again kind of using those mindset emotional mastery techniques to
Mhm.
um, come back to themselves and find their deeper desires, find what it is that really lights them up, and aligning with their body in that regard. And yeah, so that's going through April, and so probably after April, I'll probably launch either another maybe burnout to brilliance or do a kind of another iteration. I've had on my mind a lot of women ask about hormones, so I'm
Mm.
thinking about maybe doing something around hormones and how to have hormone harmony. So we'll kind of see
Oh,
what
nice.
out of
Yeah.
that. Hmm.
You're just good with names. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being my special guest. I so dearly love talking to you, and thank you for sharing your beautiful story. I'm sure many women can relate to it, and hopefully we can help them prevent that moment, that drastic moment, and they can also reconnect with who they are, reconnect with their body, and then shine their light because that's the only way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you so
much.
much, Jules. Thank you for your wisdom. I really appreciate this time, and yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.